USC cannot go backwards anymore under Lincoln Riley. They currently have the number one recruiting class in college football at the moment. And for them to be able to keep this recruiting class together for what should be the best recruiting class in the history of USC football, I don't know if that's a fact, but at least you got to think that it will be if they're able to hold on to everybody, because it seems like every time you look up, somebody is committing to USC. Hell, at this point, I might just commit to USC just because everybody else is committed to USC for some reason, because not just the NIL money being good, but who wouldn't want to play in Los Angeles, California? It's one of the nicest places in all of the United States. The weather is good year-round. You got nice women. You got beaches. It's in Hollywood. There's a lot of reasons to want to go play for USC and Lincoln Riley, but the recruiting momentum that USC has right now can quickly be derailed if we see this nasty trend that this program has been going through under Lincoln Riley, where in year one under him, they won 11 games. Year two, they won 8. Last year, they only won 7. This year, if we see further regression in the win column from the Trojans under Lincoln Riley, you got to start asking the question, is it time to cut bait? And yes, he does have a huge buyout, but with the amount of money that USC has, that they've been dropping in recruiting, the money really doesn't matter. We saw Texas A&M buy out Jimbo Fisher. And Lincoln Riley had to rebuild this program. When he first arrived and he took it over from the previous head coach, I mean, the guy did a completely awful job at recruiting. Lincoln Riley inherited some of the least talented USC programs and the history of Trojans football. I mean, their previous head coach left this team in a really bad state because he just struggled when it came to recruiting, and he struggled to retain local talent. Well, Lincoln Riley, over the last 2 seasons, he's gone back to getting back to the roots, rebuilding those high school pipelines with the schools like Mater Dei. It also helps that you hired a really good GM from Notre Dame as well, who's been a really integral part in the recruiting momentum that USC has had recently. So it's kind of hard to see USC going further backwards as what they have the last couple of seasons, especially with how good of a coaching staff they have. De'Aaron Lynn is one of the best defensive coordinators in all of college football, and this was one of the most improved defenses in the nation last season. Last year, or the year before De'Aaron Lynn arrived to LA, I mean, USC's defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. And that's why Alex Grinch got fired. De'Aaron Lynn comes in, the defensive line, there's a lot of emphasis on them getting bigger and stronger. That has happened. And this season, you're going to see the biggest defensive line that USC has probably had under Lincoln Riley, and a bunch of guys that are incredibly athletic that can move. Look out for Cameron Fountain to have a breakout season. The secondary should be a lot better as well. The offensive line should be really decent. Now, they did lose a few crucial guys to the NFL and to the transfer portal, but I think that Lincoln Riley has that offensive line up to snuff. We know that receiver is always good, and Javen Maava is one of the best kept secrets in the Big Ten this year. I believe that he's going to be a lot better than what's expected. The only issue that Jaden Maava had last season is that he just struggled to take care of the football at times, but there were a few games that USC could have won, even in spite of all of the turnovers that Jaden Maava have, and you're not always what your record says you are. USC, on the surface, their record from 2024 says 7-6, but if you watch a lot of the games that they lost where they just fell apart in the fourth quarter, they could have easily won those games. They should have easily beat Maryland. They could have easily hung on and beat Michigan, but Michigan just gave them a rude awakening into the Big Ten with the cycle ground and pound that they had. I've never seen a team in my life engineer a 2-minute game-winning drive just straight running the football. That was Lincoln Riley's welcome to the Big Ten moment, but Lincoln Riley learned, And he's a smart coach. He's a smart guy. I don't believe that the success that he had at Oklahoma was luck. Even if you do inherit a already made program, you still got to be able to sustain it. And that's what he was able to do. And at USC, it kind of was something different because he inherited Caleb Williams, who followed him, and they had more success than what was expected. And then, you know, after that, it was back to reality. He had to rebuild this team slowly but surely, but this roster is starting to come along. And with the talent that USC has this year, I can see the ceiling being 10 wins for USC, where we see them competing for the Big Ten championship and possibly a berth in the college football playoffs. But I feel the floor for USC is pretty high. I think that the floor is 8 wins this year, which the expectation should be a lot higher than 8 wins, but at least you're improving in the win column. My prediction for USC this year is that they go 9-3, and maybe they got a shot, depending on who they beat and who they might lose to, of sneaking in as a 3-loss team in the CFP, depending on how things ahead of them shake out. But USC can't go backwards anymore under Lincoln Riley. There are a lot of coaches that have a lot of pressure on them entering this season, and Lincoln Riley is one of them. Not only because of his job security, but also for the sake of keeping this recruiting class together. And even though they've gone about finding ways to avoid a bunch of mass decommitments, guys are committing to USC because they see the vision. They like the direction that the program is heading. So if the program was to go backwards and they regress again and they end up being a 6-win team at the end of the regular season, then the stock for USC football is trending even more downwards than what it has been the last couple of years. Progress isn't always linear. Sometimes you got to take 10 steps backwards to take 5 steps forward. And maybe that's the case with Lincoln Riley, but he really needs to put together a good season. I believe that USC is definitely capable of that. That's what my expectations are. But there's no more excuses that you can make for Lincoln Riley anymore. It's put up or shut up. They got momentum in the offseason. Now you got to carry that momentum into the regular season, which I got a lot of confidence that USC will.